to order at 6 o'clock. If everyone can rise for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just gonna get the superintendent 1 second to give directions. All right, we are going to start the meeting with a public session. The purpose of the meeting tonight is I'm going to ask for a recommendation to approve the superintendent's recommendation to allow the mask mandate to expire. So I'm going to ask to move that forward favorably. At this time, if anyone from the public would like to address the board, you can please step up to the microphone and give your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Georgie Andy. I live 41 Jones Hill Road, West Haven, Connecticut. I work for the public school system. I'm a parent at Savin Rock School, and I feel these masks are helping. We are at full capacity with the students, teachers, and staff. We do have cases every now and then, but it's not where you're wiping out the whole classroom. We take these masks off, kids come down with it, we're going to wipe out the classroom. At least we're in school, we're teaching, we're working with students. I really wish you would wait until after spring break, see what happens then. As long as the numbers are continuing to go down, it might be safe to try it then. When you can open up the windows, but to do it now, some schools can't even open the windows. I just feel right now, we have our students are in school, the staff is in school. One kid comes down with it, not the whole classroom goes out anymore. And we're not getting more and more students. Take down the masks, we're going to get more and more students getting sick. Not everybody's vaccinated in the elementary schools. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Would anyone else like to address the board? Please state your name and address and get to the podium.
Good evening. My name is Denise Ford. We live at 112 Church Street here in West Haven, Connecticut. I'd like to address the board this evening. I'm a 20-year animal control officer here for the city of West Haven, and I have 7-year-old twins currently attending McCurl School. As an animal control officer, I have worked with preventing zoonotic disease spread for 2 decades, and I've gone to the schools and I've taught bite prevention and rabies awareness with the animals and with the kids and how to prevent that. So I'm very aware of vaccination working and its benefits and herd immunity and how it does help in these situations. I come to you tonight to speak on behalf of my 7-year-old twins. They have complied with wearing the masks from the very beginning. In the very beginning, we didn't know what was going on. We didn't know what it was, how it worked, how sick people would get, how it was transmitted. And I do truly believe that putting all of these precautions in the schools was very beneficial for the children and the staff and everyone who worked there, because until we were aware of what was going on and how it worked, it was a very good thing to be better safe than sorry. But we are now 2 years into this pandemic. Vaccinations have been made available since last November for children 5 and up. My children were personally vaccinated starting in November, finishing at the beginning of December, they were fully vaccinated. Middle of November, they went back, middle of January, they went back to school. Came home not feeling so well. They had some mild fevers. Being the parents that we are, we went and got them tested as a precautionary measure. They were COVID positive. This was while mask mandates were in place. So, and we found out from 3 other parents that other children were positive in the classroom. Me and my husband were negative for almost another week, so my children were the ones that brought it into the home and did eventually end up getting it, because you can't exactly tell your 7-year-old, I'm sorry, don't cuddle with me when you don't feel good. So my husband and I did eventually also get COVID. However, we had very mild symptoms because we are vaccinated. I absolutely believe that the vaccines mitigated any kind of serious issues with the virus. It did help us to fully recover and have very mild symptoms and make us successfully go through this. I do believe that we should give the parents back the right to make the choices for the children. At 2 years in, we know the precautions that are necessary. We know the preventative measures that are available to us. We are, as the parents, capable of deciding what that is for us. And by allowing the mask mandate to expire, we're not taking away people's ability to wear masks. If the staff is more comfortable wearing masks, that's great. If students are more comfortable wearing masks or they are compromised, that is good. They should be able to wear masks. This is a wonderful teaching opportunity for our children to say, listen, this is going to be a personal choice, our right to make that choice. And if they want to wear a mask, that's okay. Differences are good. We're always teaching our children differences are good amongst ourselves. And that personal choices don't make us better or worse than anyone else, just different. Different is good. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for the children to start to learn about this personal choice. I think some children are not doing well with the masks. My children are at the age where they're learning how to learn, and facial cues and speaking and learning emotion from other children and social development has been stunted the last 2 years. Now, I don't regret that. Like I said, we needed to take precautions, and we've all done what we need to do to protect our children and our staff and our community. But I do feel that with Governor Malloy deciding to allow this to expire, based on his given consultations with the state health department and the CDC recommendations, and then also the CIAC lifting any indoor mask mandates coming up for the student athletes. At this point, it really needs to be a personal decision. The rights need to be given back to the parents to make the decision of what's right for our children. And I do have one twin that may wear a mask because he's a worrier, and one child who really wants nothing to do with them anymore. And that should be really put back in the hands of the families. Thank you.
My name is Deborah Sanrati, and I'm actually from 3 Ferguson Road in Camden, Connecticut. I'm here.
We're gonna let the Weston residents.
Well, I'm here on behalf of my grandchildren who are in the seat because their parents went.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
So
And they
they're
live
at
where?
128 Penn, so they're right here.
Perfect.
So I'm here to represent my grandchildren on behalf of their parents. I'm very concerned, as I know everyone is. Some share beliefs and others do not. And that's part of why we're here. We don't like to be told to follow the beliefs of others anymore. Choice. We want the right to make their own choices. We deal with our children's inner feelings and whatever they may be concerned about, whether it's being happy, sad, anxious, angry, confused, scared. How we address their feelings if they aren't verbally telling us as we watch their faces. We can see the changes in their expressions. I'm concerned about what our children see or can't, how they perceive people without being able to see the expressions of their teachers and classmates. Children look for approval, recognition, a simple smile, but they cannot see. They cannot visually see or express their feelings. All of us work very hard at trying to maintain a normal lifestyle within our homes. Once we step outside, whether it's to go to work, shopping, appointments, school, it's like stepping into a twilight zone, and it's scary. But as was just said, it's been a long time, and we simply have to learn how to deal with it. Like, are we going to be like this for the rest of our lives? I mean, it's crazy. I hope not. When the world seems so very wrong, we have to do something about the things that we can. Choices need to be ours. My daughter-in-law sent a letter to Superintendent, and I'd like to read one small portion of it. She said, I would like to leave you with the memory of your own childhood. Remember walking into your classroom and being greeted by your teachers and friends, smiling faces. My children have never experienced this. Make the right decision for our children. Parents' choice, please. Children or grandchildren are 4 and 5 years old, so they have never been to that school. My grandson, who's only a 4-year-old and only in pre-K, has been out of school for 3 out of the last 5 weeks due to somebody else got COVID. They shut everything down. So he's missed quite a bit. And they're all masked. They are very good at cleaning and so on and so forth, but masks aren't always working. So thank you for hearing me. And in closing, please unmask our children.
Thank you. Would anyone else? Oh, yeah, if you're here for the ARPA meeting, that's down the hall in the auditorium. If you're here for the Board of Ed mass meeting, that's in this room. Just wanted in case anyone stumbled into the wrong spot. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board at this time?
Carolyn Halligan, Richmond Avenue, West Haven.
Hang on one second, Carol. If you follow the hallway straight down, I'll be welcome. You're very welcome. It's okay, no problem. It's a busy building tonight. Also, if you're here for the hockey game, no, you're definitely not in the right place.
Okay, as a paraeducator in our school system, I never expected to stand in harm's way to protect our students, but throughout the past 2 years, due to this pandemic, that's just what we did. Working in the kindergarten classroom where many of our students are not vaccinated, I strongly feel that the masks have protected them, myself, and my community from spreading the virus further. As we know, this virus has not been mitigated, as evident by the following statistics. Just last week, it was reported that over 460 inpatients were COVID positive, with 51% of them being fully vaccinated. This would signify a drop in immunity provided by the vaccines. Additionally, the president just extended the United States national emergency that was declared in March 2020 because of the ongoing risks to the public's health caused by the virus. As you're aware, the governor just signed an executive order to reemploy retired teachers to address the teacher shortage caused by the recent spike in COVID case infections. He stated that they will utilize all tools to provide a safe classroom education for students. As someone in those classrooms, I strongly believe that the masks are one of those essential tools. In closing, I would like to strongly urge you to reassess the importance of continuing the mask mandate in our school system and revisit it after the April break, especially since it's been reported that the subvariant Omicron is on the rise. Let's keep the mask on and make it to the finish line. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to address the board? Please do. Maybe Monica, help you lower the microphone down. This is the best part of my entire career, just so you know. I love that you're all offering your opinion in a public forum. So go right on ahead. Just tell us your name and what street you live on. Olivia. Okay. Maybe mom can say what street.
97 Prospect Avenue.
Excellent. Go ahead, Olivia. You say whatever you want to say.
You go right to the chase. That's what I like.
Because it hurts. Because
Don't be nervous. You're fine.
sometimes I can't breathe. Yes.
She comes home a lot with like that. Right? And she, what else do you want to say?
Thank you.
Olivia, thank you very much. I hope mom makes a note in your both your photo album or something about the first time that you spoke your voice at a public meeting. That's really something to be proud of. Good job, Olivia. You gotta tell that to follow your
I'm down in Westy, my active street. I'm 17 years old, I'm a junior at Westy High School. Worn a mask since we've been requested to about a year ago. And frankly, that mask has lowered the state of 12. With COVID-19 cases on a 7-week decline, along with many people, along with students and teachers being vaccinated, the natural immunity playing the fact that there is no true reason to keep a mask in. I'm a majority of the students not even wear their mask correctly, as others who do keep it on nonstop to the point where they even keep it fully on before they cough and sneeze in it, where they then breathe in their own bacteria, which is sickness. Hopefully, at the end of the night, there will be a decision to make masks optional, and not let the few who oppose on it to keep the masks fully on, doing it to the people who want that freedom of choice.
Very well, thank you. And I also enjoy your sports broadcasts. And we'll try to keep this short, because I know there's a hockey game you probably want.
Yeah.
And I'll take care. At this time, is there anyone else that would like to address the board? Are you Olivia Sarah?
No,
Oh, I was gonna say.
I'm not taking credit for that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to look close.
Matt Petrie, 200 Island Avenue. I have 3 children in the school system. I'm against the mask mandate. My youngest child is a 5th grader at Kerrigan. She deals with speech therapy for the last 3 years. Having to talk with a mask on, not being able to see her teacher's mouth, how she pronounces words, is impeding her growth. My oldest is a senior at the high school. She'd like to finish out her high school career the way it started, with no mask, being able to celebrate. They had no junior prom. You know, visiting colleges has been a struggle. No winter formals. Masks have become nothing more than just a placeholder, a chin strap. Most people that are even wearing masks are wearing stuff like this. They don't, science has proven it doesn't work. I'm not willing to entertain any clauses that allow you to reinstate masks. You don't need a mask to go to the bar, to the restaurant. We have hundreds of kids in this cafeteria with no mask on. Our children should not bear the responsibility for the hypocrisy in the community. It's time to give the parents and the taxpayers the choice whether their kids wear masks. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the board at this time?
Hello. I'm
That's okay. Are you sure? All right, well, thanks for coming up anyway. Anyone else? I used to be that way too, and now we're Brexit.
Joe Weber, 144 Arlington Street. I'm here tonight to ask the end of the masking of our children. The science is clearer than ever that masks give little to no protection against respiratory viruses. Not only are they mostly ineffective, but many studies show that they can be harmful in children that are still growing. N95 masks are somewhat better protection if worn correctly, but try wearing one of those for an entire school day. They're not very comfortable, not easy to breathe through. Kids are wearing gaiters, homemade masks, or cloth surgical masks that they've had in their backpacks for an entire semester. They are constantly touching their masks to adjust them. They pull them below their noses because it's hard to breathe. They store them in their pockets or gym bags. These masks are basically a petri dish strapped to their faces. This can hardly be healthy for anybody. I've had 2 sons already graduate high school and have a son here now. Our middle son graduated last year. Me and my wife watched as he and his teammates on the track and cross-country teams had to run with masks on outdoors in the 85-degree heat. That's if they had a season at all. For his junior and senior years, about 75% of sports were canceled. Not only did they miss out on competing, but also on showcasing their talents to interested colleges. These kids will never get those opportunities again. I'm ashamed of myself as a parent that I wasn't a better advocate for my sons. The younger kids had a difficult time also. They had to stay 6 feet apart from their friends. They couldn't see the faces of their teachers or fellow students. So much is conveyed by facial expressions, and a simple smile goes a long way. There is a viral video of a teacher explaining to her kindergarten class that starting tomorrow, they no longer had to wear masks. The class immediately exploded with cheering and dancing around the room. We always say how resilient kids are, but we never ask them how they feel. The fact that we are even talking about extending these mask mandates is disheartening. It seems that the fear of adults is trumping the well-being of students. Never in history did we protect the older population over the children. We worried so much about masking and social distancing, we overlooked other damaging repercussions. Child obesity, depression, suicide are among the awful side effects of these mandates. Many other states around the country and many countries around the world are coming to their senses and dropping all mandates. If some students and teachers still want to wear a mask, that's fine, but please make it optional. We need to set an example for our children and stop the irrational fear and let our kids be kids again. We need to return to normalcy before it's too late. Please do the right thing and end the mask mandate. School board members throughout the country are being replaced by people who will defend our children like a parent would. Thank you for your time.
I just doubled everything that people want
All
to
right.
and said, especially Olivia, that's how I felt when I was up there.
All right, for a third and final time, is there anyone else? Oh, got one speaking in. You just wanted me to go through all three, so I can get out of here, right? You can pay attention.
Shirley Emmett, 79 George Street, West Haven. I personally think that we should wait until after April vacation and revisit this. We saw over Thanksgiving how high the numbers went. We saw after Christmas, people went away, the numbers were really, really high. I work in self-contained special education room, Kerrigan, and with my mask on, the kids that I work with, they need a lot of love, they need a lot of hugs. I'm very comfortable hugging them, giving them all the love they need with the masks on. Taking the masks off of them kind of worries me because I know that people are getting COVID with, being vaccinated, and quite honestly, I don't want to bring it home to my dad, or, you have to think a little bit outside the box. I could get COVID, bring it to my dad, and it could make it my very ill. I think that it's a hard decision for you guys. I'm just afraid that people will start going on vacation. The numbers are going to back up, and the numbers are not quite the numbers because we're doing so many home tests right now that they are not even, they're not even on, when the governor puts the numbers up, they're not even right because they're not even reported. I just feel really concerned about being in a room that some of our classrooms don't have windows. So I just feel like it really is in the best interest of the students, the staff, and I gotta tell you, everybody's saying, the kids are suffering. I don't hear kids ever tell me their masks bother them. I'm the one with my head out the window with a penny fresh air. It's me, it's not the kids, they're not complaining. So I go into a different homeroom in the morning, I go to two different homerooms, the kids are not complaining. I am very concerned the numbers are gonna go up, and I'm very concerned that we'll have to revisit this again and possibly go back and Mr. Governor and say, okay, now we have to pass that on. Also, a concern of mine is the busing. The state is saying that you must wear a mask on the bus. I feel that the kids are gonna get on the bus and I think I'm correct with that.
It's actually a federal, all public transportation is a federal mandate.
It's federal, okay.
Not gonna change. So public school buses, airplanes, trains, that's all federally mandated. That's no control.
Okay, so the kids are gonna get on the bus with a mask, they're gonna get off. When they are not masked during the day, they have to get back on the bus. And they bring a mask, right? They bring a mask. Like they brought out as a mask, they can't let their kids get on the bus. I just kind of feel like it's just too soon. That's just my opinion. I think I want to see the kids' faces all day long. I really do. And I love to see their faces, and I get to see them in the lunchroom because I'm in the lunchroom every day with them. I just think it's just, I just think we should wait until after April vacation, the week after, revisit it and make a decision about it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley. Anyone else like to address the board?
Can I just say from here,
Oh,
I do it.
And just state your name and address. I know you're Michelle.
Yeah.
I don't know if
John Conrasky, 113 Fenwick Street. I just want to say, whatever the board got to decide, because there's pros and cons, I ask you to at least give the option for the students to wear it. Okay, rather than just say one side. At least give people the option. So if they want to wear a mask, wear it too. If they feel comfortable, wear it outside. Just let the students have a choice. That's as far as I can say right now.
Thank you. Anyone else at this time like to address the board?
Kathy, I'm sorry, are we allowed to ask questions for information gathering? From people who have given
You
testimony?
need to speak to them after. We don't do a like a back and forth. You can have them tell you or you can tell them, but we don't do like
So
a
we don't do
question and
any,
answer in public session.
we don't do any information gathering?
Not during public session. For a second time, is there anyone that would like to address the board? You want to talk again, Olivia? All right. Usually we have a one speaker rule, but Olivia is clearly my favorite, so. we're gonna let her talk.
My friend faces mask.
All right. Anything else, Olivia? All right. For sure this time? Perfect. Thank you again. Third and final time, anyone else would like to address the board? All right, at 6:26, public session is closed. I'd like to give the floor to the superintendent for his presentation. If we could hold our questions so that any presentation, that would be great.
So I'm gonna try to be brief tonight. We sent out the packet today with we received a lot of information from various agencies over the last couple of weeks since the governor made the announcement. We really tried to, condense what we thought was important and that would help you make a decision or again, just simply to allow the mandate to expire. Before I start with my presentation, I just want to say a couple of things because it's really hard to separate yourself as the superintendent of school. A couple of people said, and put yourself in their place. Just a couple of observations. And Neil, father, grandfather, because I have a granddaughter who goes to preschool, for example, and they got killed. They were closing every 5 weeks. My poor daughter didn't have daycare and things like that. So I'm glad to see that we're coming out of this and there's less restrictions because, I believe my granddaughter's safe when I send her out, but my son-in-law and my daughter need to go to work. So I've lived through the quarantines and things like that. I also, I know Joe mentioned he had a senior at West Haven High School last year. I had a senior at Notre Dame High School last year. Same thing. We were looking at colleges with the masks. He lost his junior year. He was just starting to dress for varsity for the Notre Dame hockey team 2 years ago. And that was taken away from him. And I think it's a big summer between your junior year and your senior year. He missed the opportunity to start to get a job and do more socializing. So I get what people have missed. And I've watched this pretty closely. And as the superintendent of schools, again, I think we've made pretty conservative but very smart and wise decisions and have done the best we can to keep our schools open. I understand that there's a concern from some that, by removing the masks, you may not feel as safe. Again, I think the key is that we are planning on making this option. We do plan on, if one of the things that we'll do is if that the board allows the mandate to expire, we'll try to get as much information as we can out to parents that number one, we're letting it expire, but number two, you really need to sit down with your families and weigh the pros and cons, and as a family, you make those decisions. I also agree with the bus. I think that's going to be challenging, that you're going to put it on or have a mask for the bus, but then when you come off the bus, it's going to be hard to monitor that the child has that mask all day. But again, I think we've done it and navigated it pretty well.
I'll say this again, I think our staff has been terrific. I also think that our kids adjusted really, really well. We had very few issues because I believe at the end of the day, kids wanted to go to school. So I don't think it was ever an issue. Kids and families did what it took in order to get them to go to school. But kids have missed out on a lot. Kids, with special needs have missed out on a lot. With speech issues, for example. There are mental health issues, which Channel 8 is doing a big series on the kinds of things that have happened. And, I'm going to make this recommendation tonight that you allow the mask mandate to expire. But I don't want you to think it didn't come without a lot of thought and a lot of time that we put into it. Not only me, but members of my central office team, Mrs. Drenzen, Ms. Greco, Mrs. Akabora. We spent a lot of time the last couple of weeks, just talking to our fellow superintendents and nursing supervisors and others from around the state. So with that, again, I think we've done a good job. I really do. I think we should be with your support. I always qualify that without the board's support, we may not have been able to do the things that we did in order to keep kids as engaged as possible under the circumstances. I also want to say this, because I think, again, you've got some unfair criticism over the last couple of years. This is, and I need to say this because the board has been so supportive, that this is really the first opportunity in 2 years that you've had to weigh in on this. Most of these were state or federal mandates that we've had to comply with. And there was really very little choice. And some people, they want to be insistent on saying, but you're the Board of Education. There are some things you really couldn't do. So, again, I appreciate your patience and you've had to sit through a lot, but this is really the first chance you've had to weigh in on it. So I'm going to give my presentation, then it's going to be up to you. And again, I think there are 3 options at the end of the day, which we'll go over. So over the last several weeks, since the governor made his announcement, I'm still learning how to use my new iPad. I'm trying to get where I can use it instead of taking notes. I'm trying to become more tech savvy. There's been a collaboration and discussion with many area superintendents. Most of the districts in our region, it's the South Central area regional superintendents, have decided to make masks optional. In fact, I was waiting for this survey that just came out today. And again, not that means just because everybody, I can hear my father saying, just because everybody else does it means you should do it. That's not what we should do. But the Connecticut Association of Public School Superintendents sent out a survey of either districts that made a decision or districts, what they thought the decision would be if they hadn't made it yet. And of the 124 responses, 112 are making the masks optional. And I think it's important that that's because it says a lot about where we are. I sensed when we met via the Zoom meeting a couple of weeks ago that was the direction that most were heading in, but they wanted to make sure that prior to making any decisions, they had the latest data. We also sat in on numerous meetings with the State Department of Education and the Department of Public Health. And I think what they did, I think if there's anything they stressed was that we are in a different place than we were 2 years ago. In other words, we have the vaccines, we have medications, we have self-testing kits. We've used and we've implemented a lot of mitigation strategies, which we're still going to keep in place. I think it's important that we keep it in place and don't just go cold turkey. If there are things going on in classrooms such as shields and maybe separate the kids a little bit more than usual, we're still going to do that. I want to point out that all year long we've had the cafeterias open and we really haven't seen an increase as a result. I got a really nice email today from a parent who I've been communicating with. And she made a great point. She said, I wish I could be there tonight, but her daughter was going to dancing school with a lot of kids from the West Haven Public Schools where they haven't been wearing masks since September. We've done the best we could over at the rink and at our gyms and whatnot, but at the end of the day, I think as time goes on, naturally you get more lax with it because you let your guard down. And however, having said that, we've actually done pretty well. On Thursday, Mrs. Drensick was involved, as well as Ms. Greco, our nursing supervisor. We had what I would consider the most important meeting, and that was with Mrs. Lillis, who's the director of public health, and for the city of West Haven, and Dr. Mohammed, who's the advisor to the health department. He also, I believe, advises the Orange Public Schools and is their medical advisor. They both agreed. A month ago, they would have said it's time to move on and take the masks off, but they felt that the numbers trending in the direction they were, that they absolutely would support the recommendation to make masks optional. One of the things that came out of that meeting, going on to the next screen, which I thought was really great, by the way. The first point that, because I know the number was down and you couldn't get it up, but according to Health Director Willis, we've got over 70% of people in West Haven with at least one dose of the vaccine, which again, I'm Kevin, you may know more than me because I know you're on the board of health.
I am.
At one point, it was
You
about.
did an amazing job.
It
With
was
Heather Sheck.
it was about 30 or 40% and like struggling to get over 50%. Yeah, so I mean, I really think we've made great strides. I can tell you that our staff is well over 90%. We were down to a few each week that we were actually, again, by state executive order, were required to get testing results for those that were vaccinated. So of over, again, this includes, everybody from the superintendent of schools to administrators to teachers, paraprofessionals, to part-time literacy teachers and lunch aides, well over 1,100 employees. Again, a number of over 90% vaccinated, which again, I think is tremendous. That's a testament to our employees. Again, the challenge is that we are going to have to, make sure the kids keep the masks on the buses. I won't lie to you, it's going to be tough. But Greg Winkle will call me at 3 o'clock and tell me the buses that they had the trouble. There's no doubt about that. Mr. Bowen and the rest of the administrators will be on there the next day. The best they can. We're going to follow again, this is a summary of what's in your packet, but our intent is to follow all of the other loose rules still in effect with regard to quarantine and if you are symptomatic, you are going to have to stay out and return. We're going to recommend that masks be worn. I think the reality of it is, and I had this conversation with Kevin and several other people today. The challenge with that is going to be that, the kids that can't wait to get back to school are less likely to be tested. I think that we've seen that, especially with athletes, the kids who wanted to be in school over the last couple of years, who wanted to participate in everything from sports to the play, which is the musicals which are coming up. So I think that's going to be a challenge, but again, we've had really good support from families, and the kids have done everything that we asked them to do because they wanted to be. So, again, a challenge, but we'll get it done. And again, this board can, if the numbers go up, if we get a call from Mrs. Lois and she says, you know what, Neil, I think you might want to consider, putting the mask back on. That's always an option. Also, it could be taken out of your hands, as you know this, at some point, the Department of Public Health and the governor can reinstitute the mandate, or at least a strong recommendation, which we're certainly going to listen. Again, maybe it won't be a requirement, but, we're going to take those kinds of things seriously. Someone mentioned the CIAC. As of next Monday, the mandate for wearing masks during contests and practices are off. Perfect timing because they're going into their winter sports tournaments. Again, I think it's long overdue because I think, youth sports, while they are high school athletes, they're using our gyms, using the rink, they're in these facilities, they weren't wearing masks. I thought we did a good job of enforcing it. I know there were a lot of schools, and I know that officials from the CIAC would show up and they would say, the next day they'd be email, hey, kids weren't wearing masks. To my knowledge, we didn't have those issues. Again, the rink is a pretty, one of the most well-used facilities for any sport in the state. Joe Morrell and Chris Everell and the guys who run the rink have done a really good job of enforcing mask laws. But again, I think as other districts take them off, it's going to be more and more challenging to enforce that policy. Again, if the board said enforce the policy, we would enforce it. We do the best we can. But again, realistically, I think the masks are coming off, and it just becomes more difficult. So, with the hope that, again, this is going to expire, assuming there's no snow day yet, because I've heard back and forth, what we would like to do on Friday, what we would like to do, and again, I think our teachers do an amazing job of this, and our administrators. I have a draft letter ready to go out. Michael White, our communications person, is here tonight. We'll start to get the word out on social media. We will encourage families to have those conversations we talked about. We will have teachers talk to their classrooms about respecting everybody's rights and wishes and privacy. I think that's what teachers do a good job of. If someone chooses to wear a mask, that's their choice, and we'll respect that. I think that we'll also, again, send out the same reminders that we've sent out throughout the pandemic, that if you don't feel well, let someone know, stay home, don't come to school. There's also the mitigation strategies like wash your hands, there's social distance where possible, and we will not go away from that. I think the way I would present it if I were teaching the class is, guys, this is a privilege. We're going to get the masks off, but now we gotta do some things in return. I always find that kids rise to the occasion when they're given those kinds of challenges and put in those circumstances. And the last slide, just some final thoughts. Again, if you look through that packet that I gave you, the message from the Department of Health, the Department of Education, it's clear. We are clearly in a different place than we were when the pandemic started a couple of years ago. We've learned a lot, we've done a lot, and you know what? I know that it's difficult, but eventually you've got to take that next step. And we will do our best over the next couple of days to spread the word about what we need to do to stay safe and hopefully keep the masks off. And finally, again, I want to thank the board. And again, I would remind everybody that this is really your first chance to weigh in. Up until now, you kind of had to sit here and take it. I think our families have been great. We've got a lot of good support. Our kids have been tremendous, and there's been very few incidents regarding kids refusing to follow the rules because at the end of the day, they really wanted to be in school. With that, I'll take any questions. Oh, let me leave you with this. So there's 3 actions again, and if you said to me, Neil, that's fine, we're going to do something different. I think there are 3 actions that the board can take tonight. One would be no action, and no action for those that don't want the mask. That's a good thing, because what happens is you do not have a separate COVID policy in place right now. The state mandate expires on the 28th, and then as a result, masks would become optional because there is no more mandate in place. If you had a separate policy saying you have to wear masks, you would have to rescind that policy. You can certainly extend the mask mandate, and that's your call, and they will remain the same. Or you can do a modification and, take them off with these exceptions or whatnot. But again, I personally think that my recommendation would be to allow the mandate to expire. Let's move on to the next phase. Let's watch it carefully. Let's do the things that we've been doing. And, let's hope that as we move, again, especially at a really nice time of the school year where we have our winter sports tournaments coming up. We have the school musical coming up in high school. We have the Bailey Carrigan musicals coming up. Spring sports will then start, and then we move into the end of year activities. I think it's a great time of year to move on to that next phase. Thank you.
I'm going to open it up to the board for questions in a second. I just wanted to make a couple statements. I am by profession a registered nurse, and I sit on the Board of Health. The decisions that we have made since the beginning of this pandemic has always been based on scientific evidence that we were presented with at the time, and we will continue to do so as long as I sit in the chair spot on the board. And the other thing I just wanted to say briefly is that the pandemic response was never intended to keep everybody from getting sick. A pandemic response is to prevent collapse of the healthcare system in your community. So never in anybody's realm of thinking should they have thought that wearing masks and getting vaccinated and social distancing and shutting things down were going to prevent everyone from getting sick. It was always to prevent the collapse of your hospital systems, which we have managed to do in a very rapid way in Connecticut, especially in King County. And I think that when you keep that in mind and you realize that's why we instituted the things that we did, it gives you a slightly different perspective on where you stand on masking and unmasking. At the time we put the mask mandate in place, I should say the governor put the mask mandate in place, it was hard to get a mask. People were wearing tissue paper over their face. So a double protection, me protecting you and you protecting me, was the way to go. Now there's many ways that you can protect yourself from becoming sick. You can get vaccinated. You can choose to wear a mask. You can even get an N95 mask if you want to. So I feel very comfortable recommending or putting forward a motion, asking for a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to allow masking to become optional, based on not anything else but where we stand scientifically in the community and in the medical community of where I am a practicing clinician. So at this point, if anyone has questions for the superintendent, I would be happy to open it up to the board. I'm going to start with Bob.
So no action and modification such option.
I'm sorry.
No action and modification.
So the difference would be if you were to take no action tonight, the mandate expires. If you were to modify, if you were to say, I want to keep the mandate modifications or, add something or say, like, for example, we've got we're going to give you classes or something like that, you have that option. Or you could extend.
I was in school system in 37 years, they never. We were lucky to get that thing. Those ventilation systems were for the school. Half the birth filters to the price was recommended, according to So we've done our due diligence. Safer than it ever has been. Our time that I've been involved. So that I think is something that parents need to know. So, because I'm not sure that they know that. And I think it's important for them to know that. That's an important step that we can take. The expense. We've got to do that. That's proud of that. According to the part of the year, this bill is cleaner than any year. So it's top line ventilation. It's like our bad. Because I said you have no windows that open, I can never change that building. You know, top of the line, everything. So, I mean, but I think that's reassuring for parents to hear that. That's something else and there's help. Try to do it. Like, there you go. He's taking notes. I saw him taking notes up there. Okay. Yeah, thank you.
I have a lot of questions. And I hope, you know, talking to parents, first of all, Olivia, super duper kind. And, so I take it really seriously that we sit up here. This is a privilege, and I think that we're obligated to represent the staff, the students, and the families in this district. And so I definitely think it's time for us to start. I know what it's like to be in a classroom and teach a child. That access, but you don't know that because you can't see what I'm saying. I think that it's important that we be mindful of if we need to revisit this. It's something that we need to revisit. I hope that everyone can keep in mind if that's necessary. So I think if we can all continue to work collaboratively and stay home if we're sick, do what we're supposed to be doing. I think that this is something that I'm comfortable sending my children. I would be comfortable walking faster to my classroom if I was working. And so that's kind of where I'm at. So thank you to the parents that are here, to my girl, and that's kind of
Thanks, Kim. Jennifer?
This is just for questions for Neil, correct?
Correct.
So
You could ask me, but I probably won't have the answer.
I just wanted to see, I know. I'm trying to speak into the mic.
I don't mind going back up.
I know people online can't hear if we don't.
Listen, if you want to walk around a little bit.
Okay, here we go. No, I was like facing this way talking, and while I love talking to you, I'm kind of addressing Neil. Neil, the last meeting we had when the governor made his first announcement, you had mentioned that we actually do have N95s available in the school district. And I just wanted to make sure that that is still the case, that if there are people who are concerned and feel the need to continue protecting themselves, that we have availability. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes,
if I heard that
that's a
correctly.
question. So the short answer is we have plenty of N95 masks. Chris, how many just at Malloy that have not been distributed out yet? The 95.
Probably about 2,000.
And in fact, Jennifer, I got a notification from the state last week. There's another round. So I had emailed Chris and Joe Soto, who's the head of the city's emergency operations center. I said, it says that it's optional. You don't have to take them. I'm usually like, well, if they're available, let's grab them. They both felt that between what Chris has available at Malloy, what's out at the school, and what he has available to him, we weren't even gonna go get any more. I mean, we can, but we just feel like we've got a lot available right now.
And the reason I asked, we have some heroes here who sound very concerned about, being protected. And so I just wanted to make sure that, especially the parents, I know they put a lot of effort forth with, the reward is mostly hugs, that they have a protection if they need it. So just wanted to clarify that. The other thing, as you're a school administrator and have been involved in the school district for a long time, I just wanted to clarify, we do hear a lot, and we've received letters and we've heard testimony tonight about students being compliant. And we hear that a lot thrown around, that students are compliant, they don't complain. And I'm just curious, do students in general complain about rules that are enforced and put into practice in the school districts? overall? I mean, I know it's a very big question, but I just hear that and
I would say, you know what, not so much in recent years, but I remember, God, I will have to go back when I was in high school, there was a walk out every week for something stupid, you know. And I went to Wesleyan High School, but, no, they don't, they're pretty good, you know, they follow rules, and I've always thought that maybe it's the type of kid that grows up in West Haven, or blue collar, family, you know, so you go to school, listen to your teachers kind of thing. But no, we don't get a lot of complaints. I do think though, Jennifer, one of my concerns was that if we, and again, we would do, the board set the policy, our job as administrators and teachers and employees would be to follow the policy. So I had a bigger concern that if we did extend the mandate, that I think we would be forced to punish with kids, and that was something that I just didn't want to happen. You know, and I wouldn't want to give kids a reason who missed out on a lot already to kind of rally and say, look, we've had it. You guys are going too far. Again, I understand what the rules are. I also know that, again, as a former city councilman 25 years ago, you know, we used to pass a lot of ordinances, and we felt good after we passed it. We knew very well that, you know, we should be able to really enforce these kinds of rules that we're putting in, and do they make sense for them?
right. So just to kind of give background why I'm saying that, you know, we've never seen, I mean, I'm new to the board, but it seems the general consensus is that parents don't show up for board meetings. Parents don't really complain about much. And this is the most we've ever heard or seen from parents saying that their kids, their grandkids are complaining at home about the mask mandate, but yet the only people that I've heard from that are saying that they don't complain about them are people who are working in the school. And so I was just trying to understand in my mind if that's kind of in general what we see with students is that they comply in school and then they go home and complain to their parents about what they're experiencing.
You know, I think that happens a lot. Here's what I would tell you. Again, you know, when COVID first hit, and we were talking about reopening schools in the fall of September 2020, I received probably more emails than I ever did about, you know, whether or not it's safe to reopen schools. We had a pretty good sized public hearing for those of you around the board in August of 2020, we were kind of come up with a final plan. And that will tell you that, you know, this issue more than others, I have received, again, from parents mostly, about, you know, what their kids are experiencing. I have received both sides of the argument, certainly more take the masks off. So this issue is probably, you know, one that ranks right near the top of the important issues to people and families.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. At this point, I would like to ask, I think Pat would like to make a motion. I'd like to ask for a motion to accept the recommendation from the superintendent to allow the mask mandate to expire. I know the superintendent said that by taking no action, it would just expire, but I do think that it's important. I feel strongly that everyone who is watching this meeting and who reads about this meeting knows that I actually support, or those who may feel differently, what your opinion is, and that, you know, I want everyone to know that my support is not just to allow something to happen passively, but that I actually support scientifically allowing the masks to be option. So at this point, I'm going to ask to make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Bob also seconded. And I will ask for any more discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? I'm very pleased to announce that.
Yes.
Unanimous. thank all the teachers and staff members who have worked so tirelessly throughout this pandemic to make sure that our schools stayed open, that kids could experience in-person learning. I think we're one of the very few districts who opened right up in September after the closure in the spring and stayed open throughout the entire year. I don't want to jinx myself on superstitiousness. And I appreciate all the effort that went into making that possible, as well as the effort from the parents who may have not personally supported the mask mandate, but did support having your children do that while they were in the school building. And I know sometimes that's a little bit hard to separate your personal feelings to allow that to continue happening. But I think all of those things contribute to the success of our schools staying open, and hopefully that will continue. So one last thing, just I was thanking Heather Shea for getting that vaccination rate up to 70. She's sitting over there. So I wanted to let her know I gave her a shout out. So we're getting all the shots in arms. Thanks, Heather. That helped us take the masks. And at this point, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Second.